The bullet tore through Amara's shoulder at exactly 3:47 in the morning, spinning her sideways off the railway track. She hit the gravel hard, her vision whiting out as the train roared past, so close the wind tore at her hair. Through the ringing in her ears, she heard shouting. Footsteps pounding toward her. Strong hands grabbed her arms and lifted her like she weighed nothing. "Get her up! Now!" "Boss, she's bleeding out. I can see that. Move." Amara's head lolled against a solid chest. She tried to focus on the face above her but only caught impressions. Sharp jawline, dark eyes colder than the night air, and an expression of pure fury. "You weren't supposed to be here," the man said, his voice cutting through her haze. It wasn't concern. It was calculation. "Let me go," she managed to whisper. Not an option. Everything faded to black. Here's what Amara didn't know. She'd been standing on that track trying to end her life. Bills piled high. Her ex-husband had taken her daughter across the country. The landlord's final notice taped to her door. At 24, single and drowning in depression, she'd chosen those tracks as her exit. But at the exact moment she'd closed her eyes and waited for the train, Kang Jisoo's men had been hunting a fleeing informant through Daecheon's industrial district. When their target pulled a weapon near the railway, they'd returned fire. One bullet went wide. That bullet hit Amara instead. Now she was a complication, a witness, a liability in a world where witnesses didn't survive long. When consciousness returned, Amara's first thought was that heaven had excellent interior design. Soft cream walls, indirect lighting, the gentle beep of medical equipment. Then the fire in her shoulder reminded her she definitely wasn't dead. She turned her head slowly. The room looked like a luxury hotel pretending to be a hospital. A single glass wall revealed a hallway where two men in dark suits stood perfectly still, facing outward. Guards. "You're awake." A male nurse appeared beside her bed, checking the IV line in her arm. His face was professionally neutral. "How's your pain level?" "Where am I?" "A private recovery facility. You were brought in early this morning with a gunshot wound. The bullet went clean through. Missed anything vital. You're very lucky." "Lucky?" The word tasted like ash. She tried to sit up, but her body screamed in protest. "Easy. You've lost blood and you're on heavy medication. Just rest." "I want to leave." His expression shifted almost imperceptibly. "That's not possible right now." "What do you mean, not possible? Am I under arrest?" "No. You're under protection." He adjusted her pillow and left without another word. The door closed with a soft click that sounded exactly like a lock engaging. Amara stared at the ceiling as reality crystallized. Someone had shot her. Someone had grabbed her. And now she was trapped in a private facility with armed guards who called captivity protection. She'd survived her suicide attempt only to land in a different kind of prison. 3 days crawled past. Meals arrived through a secured compartment in the door. Restaurant-quality food she couldn't taste. The guards rotated shifts but never spoke to her. When she demanded to make a phone call, they ignored her. When she asked to see a doctor, they said one would come when appropriate. The room had no windows, no television, no clock. Just blank walls and machines monitoring her vital signs like she was cargo instead of a person. On the 4th night, the lock disengaged. She sat up quickly, ignoring the pull in her shoulder. The door opened and a man walked in who made the air feel different just by entering. He was tall, early 30s, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her last apartment. His black hair was styled back from a face that could have been carved from marble. But his eyes were the darkest thing about him, and they pinned her in place like she was something to be studied and categorized. "Miss Keene." His English was perfect, barely accented. "I'm Kang Jisoo." The name meant nothing to her, but the way he said it suggested it should. She pulled the thin blanket higher. Are you the one keeping me here? I'm the one keeping you alive. He sat in the chair beside her bed with controlled grace that suggested violence was always an option. You weren't the target, but now you've been seen. Target? What are you talking about? 4 nights ago, one of my men was tracking someone, an informant who decided to run rather than face consequences. When cornered near the railway, he pulled a weapon. My men returned fire. You happened to be standing in the trajectory. Amara's mouth went dry. You're saying I was shot by accident? The bullet was meant for him. Unfortunately, he escaped. And unfortunately, you became a complication. A complication. Anger cut through her fear. I'm a person. I have a daughter. I have a life. You can't just lock me up because your people have terrible aim. Something flickered across his face too quickly to read. Your life, as you knew it, ended the moment that bullet hit you. The man we were hunting belongs to a rival organization. If they learn you witnessed the incident, if they think you might identify anyone involved, they'll kill you to eliminate the possibility. I didn't see anything. I wasn't even looking. They don't know that, and they won't care. He stood, adjusting his cufflinks with deliberate precision. You'll stay here until the situation is resolved. You'll be cared for, fed, protected. But you will not leave and you will not contact anyone outside. Those are the terms of your survival. He walked to the door. Wait. Her voice cracked. How long? Kang Jisoo paused without turning. As long as it takes. The door closed. Amara pulled her knees to her chest, careful of her wounded shoulder, and let the tears come. She'd wanted to die. She'd chosen to die. But not like this. Not trapped and alone with no control and no end in sight. The next morning, a different guard brought breakfast. He was younger than the others, maybe mid-20s, with a softer face. When he set the tray down, his eyes caught on tissue paper sticking out from under her pillow. You draw? He asked quietly. It was the first normal question anyone had asked in days. Amara pulled out the tissue, covered in rough sketches made with a pen she'd pocketed from the nurse's station. Used to, before everything. The guard studied the drawings. Simple things. A bird. A window. Her daughter's face from memory. These are good. They're garbage. I need real materials. He glanced at the door, then back. I'm Juan. I'll see what I can do. The next day, she found a small sketch pad and 3 pencils hidden under her lunch tray. No note, no acknowledgement. But it was the first kindness she'd received in this place, and it cracked something open in her chest. She drew constantly after that. The room from every angle, the medical equipment, her own hands, and then, almost without meaning to, she started drawing Kang Jisoo's face from memory. The sharp angles, the cold eyes, the way he'd looked at her like she was a problem to solve rather than a person. 10 days after she woke up, he returned late at night. She was sitting cross-legged on the bed, pencil flying across paper, when the door opened. Kang Jisoo stopped when he saw her. His gaze dropped to the sketch. It was him. Every line captured in graphite. She'd gotten the eyes right, that particular emptiness that suggested he'd seen too much. Why? He asked simply. Amara set the pencil down. Because you're the only face I see besides the guards. Because drawing keeps me sane. Take your pick. He moved closer, studying the portrait with an intensity that made her nervous. When he finally looked up, something in his expression had shifted. Not quite softness, but maybe the absence of pure ice. You're recovering well. My shoulder is healing. The rest of me, not so much. It gets easier. Does it? She couldn't keep the bitterness out. How long have you kept people prisoner and watched it get easier? You're not a prisoner. Then let me leave. Silence stretched between them. He sat down, which surprised her. She'd expected him to leave. "I saw your file," he said finally. "Single mother, working 3 jobs before you came to Korea looking for better opportunities. Your ex-husband won custody of your daughter 6 months ago." Heat flooded her face. "You had no right." "I have every right. Everyone who enters my protection gets vetted. I know you were on those tracks to die, Miss Keene. I know you weren't just in the wrong place at the wrong time." She couldn't breathe, couldn't look at him. "Then you know I didn't ask to be saved?" "No one ever does. But here you are anyway." Something in his voice made her meet his eyes. They weren't empty anymore. They were sad in a way that suggested he understood more than she wanted him to. He left without another word, but after that night, he came back. Not every day, but often enough that she started expecting him. He'd sit in that chair and she'd draw while they talked. Or didn't talk. Sometimes he just watched her work, and somehow that felt okay. 2 weeks after the shooting, everything shattered. Amara was sketching Juan's profile during physical therapy when the explosion hit. The floor lurched, alarms shrieked, lights flickered and died, replaced by emergency reds. Juan grabbed her arm. "We need to move now." "What's happening?" "The facility is under attack. Stay close." They ran through corridors she'd never seen, past rooms full of equipment she didn't recognize, while gunfire echoed from somewhere above. Juan shoved her into a side hallway just as 3 men in tactical gear rounded the corner. Not Kang Jisoo's men. Different gear, weapons raised. One of them saw her. Time slowed as he adjusted his aim. She couldn't move. Then someone slammed into her from the side, knocking her behind a metal cabinet. Bullets sparked off steel where her head had been. Kang Jisoo pressed her against the wall with his body, one hand on her head, keeping her down. His gun was out, returning fire with precise shots. She felt, rather than heard him breathing hard against her hair. Smelled expensive cologne mixed with gunpowder. The shooting stopped. Emergency lights painted everything crimson. Jisoo pulled back just enough to look at her, his hand cupping her face. Blood streaked his neck where a bullet had grazed him. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, unable to speak. His eyes dropped to her mouth. The entire world condensed to this moment. When he kissed her, it wasn't gentle. It was desperate and raw, and tasted like survival. She kissed him back because she was alive and he was alive and nothing else made sense. Footsteps pounded toward them. Jisoo broke away, grabbed her wrist and pulled her deeper into the facility. They ended up in a windowless room deep underground. Reinforced steel door. No furniture except a narrow bed and basic supplies. Jisoo's emergency safe room. He locked them in and immediately started checking her for injuries, hands professional but shaking slightly. "I'm fine," she insisted. "You're bleeding." He touched his neck absently. "Superficial. I'll live." "Who was that? Who attacked us?" "Yuri Han's crew, the rival I mentioned." He sat heavily on the bed, suddenly looking exhausted. "They found out about you. Someone talked. They came to eliminate the witness before she could identify anyone. But I can't identify anyone. I barely remember that night. They don't know that. And now they've declared open war by attacking my facility." He looked at her with something close to regret. "I'm sorry. I thought I could keep you isolated enough to stay safe. I was wrong." Amara sat beside him, her shoulder aching, her entire body trembling with adrenaline crash. "That kiss was inappropriate. It won't happen again." "I didn't say I minded." His jaw tightened. "You should. I'm the reason you're in danger. I'm the reason you'll never have your normal life back. Getting attached to me is the worst decision you could make." Too late. The words surprised her as much as him. They stayed in that room for 2 days while his men secured the facility and swept for threats. The space was too small, too intimate. They talked more than they ever had. He told her about growing up in this world, about the father who'd trained him to kill before he learned to ride a bike, about inheriting an empire at 23 when that same father was assassinated. She told him about Zara, about her daughter's laugh and stubbornness, and how losing custody had felt like dying, about the depression that followed, about standing on those tracks and wanting the pain to stop. "I understand," he said quietly on the second night, and she believed him. When they finally emerged, the facility was cleaned up, but tension remained thick. Jisoo moved her to a different location immediately. This room was larger but had no windows at all, buried even deeper in the compound. Luxury prison with silk sheets. The psychological weight crushed her slowly. Days blurred together. She stopped being able to tell morning from evening without asking. Sleep cycles became erratic. She drew obsessively, filling sketchpad after sketchpad with increasingly dark images. One night she confronted him when he came to check on her. "Am I protected or imprisoned? Because it's starting to feel like you just swapped one cage for another." Jisoo stood in the doorway, backlit by hall lights, expression unreadable. "If I let you go, you'd be dead within a week. Is that what you want? I want to breathe real air. I want to see the sun. I want to feel like a person instead of a problem you're warehousing. You think I want this?" His composure cracked for the first time. "You think I enjoy watching you fade? I'm trying to keep you alive, Amara. That's all I can do." It was the first time he'd used her first name. The intimacy of it stopped her anger cold. He left before she could respond. The next day, an elderly woman arrived. Amara heard commotion in the hall, then Juan knocked softly. "Miss Kine, you have a visitor." The woman who entered moved with grace that came from decades of commanding respect. She wore a traditional hanbok in deep blue silk, silver hair swept up elegantly. Everything about her radiated authority. "I'm Madame Seo," she said in lightly accented English, settling into the chair like it was a throne. "Jisoo's grandmother. I wanted to meet the woman causing such chaos in my grandson's life." Amara's throat tightened. "I didn't mean to cause anything." "Of course you didn't. None of us choose the moments that define us." Madame Seo poured tea from the service Juan had brought, moving with deliberate ceremony. "But here we are regardless. Tell me, do you understand what Jisoo is?" "A criminal. Mafia. Whatever term fits." "Those are labels. I'm asking if you understand him." The old woman's eyes were sharp as glass. He was 7 when he watched his mother die in a car bombing meant for his father. He was 12 when he made his first kill, defending his younger sister from a kidnapping attempt. By 18, he'd survived 3 assassination attempts. This world shaped him into something hard and cold, because softness means death. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because anyone who stands beside him becomes a target. Not might become. Will become. Enemies will use you to hurt him. Rivals will try to take you to weaken him. And Jisoo will sacrifice anything, destroy anyone, burn cities to keep you safe. That's not romance, child. That's obsession born from a lifetime of losing people." Amara's hands shook around her teacup. "So what are you saying? That I should push him away?" "I'm saying you should understand the cost before you commit to paying it." Madame Seo stood, smoothing her hanbok. "But I'm also saying I haven't seen that light in his eyes for years. You've reminded him he's still human. That's either a blessing or a curse. Time will tell which." After she left, Amara sat alone for a long time, thinking about costs and choices and the strange way life continued even when you wanted it to stop. The mediation meeting happened 3 weeks after the attack. Amara only learned about it because she overheard Juan talking to another guard outside her door. Kang Jisoo was negotiating directly with Yuri Han to end the violence. She paced the windowless room, anxiety building. This meeting would determine her fate. If they reached agreement, maybe she could finally leave. If they didn't, the war would escalate, and she'd be stuck here indefinitely. Hours crawled past. No updates. No information. Just silence, and her imagination running wild. When Jisoo finally returned, it was past midnight. He looked like he'd aged years in a single day. He sat down heavily, not looking at her. "What happened?" she asked. "We reached terms." Relief flooded through her. "So I can leave? I can go home?" In exchange for peace, Yuri demanded I surrender the Dragon Pearl shipping docks. The relief evaporated. Even she knew enough by now to understand what that meant. The docks were one of his most profitable operations, a cornerstone of his legitimate business empire. "Jisoo, that's millions of dollars. That's your foothold in international trade." "I know what it is. You can't just give that up for me. I'm nobody. I'm just some woman who got shot by accident." He finally looked at her, and the raw emotion in his eyes stole her breath. "You're not nobody to me. And yes, I can give it up. I did give it up. The papers are already signed." "Why?" The word came out broken. "Why would you sacrifice so much?" "Because your life matters more than an empire." He stood, moving to her with purpose. "Because I've spent 15 years building power and wealth and influence, and none of it means anything if you're not alive to give it meaning. Because I'm tired of measuring my worth by how much I can control and destroy. You make me want to be something more than what this world made me." Amara couldn't stop the tears. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be with someone like you." "Neither do I." He pulled her close, careful of her healing shoulder. "But I'd like to try, if you'll have me." She buried her face against his chest, feeling his heart pound beneath expensive fabric. "I'm terrified." "Good. That means you're paying attention." Despite everything, she laughed. It felt like surfacing after being underwater too long. 2 months passed. The compound remained secure. Jisoo's men caught 3 separate attempts by rival factions to breach the perimeter, but nothing got close to Amara. Slowly, carefully, restrictions eased. She got a room with windows, though they were bulletproof and overlooked an interior courtyard rather than the outside world. She got her phone back, could call her sister, though conversations were monitored. Zara's voice on the phone destroyed and rebuilt her every time. Her daughter was doing well, her ex said grudgingly. Maybe Amara could arrange a supervised visit once things settled down. Maybe she could start rebuilding that relationship. The hope hurt worse than the despair had. One evening, Jisoo brought her to a private rooftop garden, the first time she'd been outside in months. The night air felt surreal against her skin. City lights glittered through fog, Daishan sprawling below like a circuit board. He was nervous. She'd never seen him nervous before. He guided her to a bench surrounded by carefully maintained plants and lights strung through trees. "I need to ask you something," he said. "Okay. I know this hasn't been normal. I know I've essentially held you hostage and complicated your life beyond repair. But these last few months, having you here, getting to know you, has changed me." He knelt in front of her and produced a small box. "I'm not asking you to stay as my captive anymore. I'm asking you to stay as my wife. If you want to leave, I'll arrange protection and you can go anywhere in the world. But if you stay, I want it to be by choice. Your choice." The ring was simple. A single diamond on a platinum band, nothing ostentatious. Just beautiful. Amara looked at this man who'd accidentally shot her, imprisoned her, fought for her, and somehow convinced her that life was worth living again. Yes. His exhale was pure relief. He slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her like she was oxygen. 6 weeks later, Madame Seo summoned her. Another visit to the traditional house on the compound's east side. Amara went expecting more warnings about the dangerous life she'd chosen. Instead, the old woman led her through a moon gate into a private garden. Someone stood by the koi pond, back turned. Something about the posture was familiar. When the woman turned around, Amara's entire world stopped. "Mom?" Her mother's face was older, lines deepened by stress, but her smile was the same. Baby girl. Amara couldn't move, couldn't process. Her mother had been missing for 3 years, vanished after moving to Nigeria for work. Presumed dead by most family members, though Amara had never quite believed it. And now here she was, alive and whole and crying. How? Was all Amara could manage. I got caught up in something bad in Lagos. Trafficking network. I was going to be killed for witnessing something I shouldn't have. But Madame Seo's organization had connections there. They extracted me, hid me, kept me safe while they dismantled the operation. Her mother crossed the garden, taking Amara's hands. I wanted to contact you so badly, but it wasn't safe until recently. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry for all the pain. They held each other while years of grief poured out. Madame Seo watched from the doorway with satisfaction, then quietly disappeared to give them privacy. Later that night, Amara told Jisoo about it while they lay tangled in his bed. Your grandmother saved my mother's life. She saves a lot of people. She believes in balance. For every life this world takes, she tries to preserve one. It's her way of atoning for what our family does. I love you, Amara said. She'd been afraid to say it before, afraid it made her weak or stupid or complicit in something dark. But watching him in moonlight streaming through bulletproof windows, seeing the man behind the monster, she couldn't hold it back. I love you too, more than I thought I was capable of. 3 months later, Amara stared at the pregnancy test in disbelief. 2 lines. Positive. She was going to have a baby. Terror and joy warred in her chest. Jisoo found her sitting on the bathroom floor, test clutched in shaking hands. She looked up at him. I'm pregnant. The transformation in his face was instant. Fear melted into wonder. He knelt beside her, pulling her close. Okay. We can do this. We'll keep you safe. Both of you. I promise. I know. And she did. This man who'd built his life on violence and control would move heaven and earth to protect their child. The pregnancy changed everything and nothing. Jisoo became impossibly more protective, which she didn't think was possible. He installed additional security throughout the compound. Hired a private obstetrician who made house calls. Made sure she had everything she needed before she even knew she needed it. But he also softened in ways that surprised her. She'd catch him talking to her belly when he thought she was asleep, telling their unborn child about the world he was going to build for them. A safer world, a better world. I won't let you grow up the way I did, he whispered one night, his hand spread across her growing stomach. I won't let this life touch you unless you choose it yourself. You'll have options, freedom, safety. Amara ran her fingers through his hair, heart aching with love for this dangerous, complicated man. You're going to be a good father. I don't know how to be. My father taught me to kill, not to nurture. Then we'll figure it out together. Neither of us had great examples, but we have each other. He looked up at her with such raw vulnerability that it took her breath away. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway. The wedding happened in Madame Seo's garden on a clear autumn morning. Nothing elaborate, just close family and trusted guards. Amara's mother stood beside her, wiping tears throughout the ceremony. Jisoo's younger sister, Minji, served as his best woman, a fierce young woman in her early 20s who'd hugged Amara tightly and whispered, "Thank you for making him human again." The ceremony was simple. Traditional Korean vows mixed with personal promises they'd written themselves. When Jisoo said his vows, his voice was steady but his hands shook slightly holding hers. I promise to protect you, to honor you, to choose you every day even when it costs me everything. You walked into my life covered in blood from a bullet meant for someone else, and somehow you became the only thing that matters. I don't know what I did to deserve a second chance at being human, but I'll spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of it. Amara's vows were simpler but no less profound. I promise to stand beside you, to see you for who you are beyond what this world made you, to love you in the darkness and the light. You saved my life when I didn't want it saved. And then you taught me it was worth living again. That's a debt I can never repay, but I'll spend forever trying. When they kissed as husband and wife, Amara thought about the railway track, about standing there wanting to die, about the bullet that had torn through her shoulder and knocked her into a completely different life. The reception was small and intimate. Madame Seo gave a blessing in Korean that Jisoo translated quietly, his lips against Amara's ear. She says you are the daughter she prayed for, the light that found her grandson in the darkness. She says our child will bridge two worlds and bring honor to both. Amara's mother approached them during dinner, eyes wet with emotion. Are you truly happy, baby girl? Amara touched her growing belly, looked at Jisoo across the garden as he talked quietly with his sister, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Yes. Against all logic and reason, yes. Good. Because you deserve it. After everything you've been through, you deserve happiness. So do you, Mom. I'm so glad you're here to see this. Her mother squeezed her hand. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I lost 3 years with you, but I'm here now, and I'll be here to meet my grandchild. As the evening wore on, Amara found herself standing at the edge of the garden, one hand on her belly, watching the celebration. Juan approached with a gentle smile. How are you feeling, Mrs. Kang? She still wasn't used to the name. Like I'm living someone else's life. Maybe you are. Maybe that woman on the railway track died that night, and this is your second life. A better one. You're surprisingly philosophical for a bodyguard. He laughed. Boss says I read too much, but I think he's grateful I brought you those pencils that first week. He says you drew him back to humanity, one sketch at a time. He said that? Not in those exact words. But I've known him since we were teenagers. I've never seen him like this. Soft. Content. Almost normal. Juan's expression grew serious. Thank you for that. For reminding him there's more to life than violence and control. After he left, Jisoo found her, wrapping his arms around her from behind, hands settling protectively over their child. What are you thinking about? How strange life is. 6 months ago, I wanted to die. Now I'm married to a mafia boss, pregnant, and my supposedly dead mother is eating wedding cake 20 feet away. If you'd told me this was my future, I'd have thought you were insane. Are you happy? She turned in his arms to face him. Terrifyingly so. I keep waiting for something to go wrong. Nothing will go wrong. I won't let it. You can't control everything, Jisoo. Watch me. But he smiled when he said it, and she knew he understood the limits of his power, even if he refused to accept them. The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Dr. Yoon, the private obstetrician, declared her healthy and the baby developing perfectly. They learned they were having a boy during the anatomy scan. Jisoo stared at the ultrasound screen like it held the secrets of the universe. A son, he whispered. I'm going to have a son. You sound terrified. I am. What if I mess him up the way my father messed me up? Amara took his hand. You won't. Because you're aware of the cycle and determined to break it. That awareness alone makes you better than your father. They spent hours debating names. Jisoo wanted something strong. Amara wanted something that honored both their cultures. They finally settled on Elijah Minho Kung. Elijah for her side, Minho for his. As her due date approached, the compound went into lockdown mode. Additional security measures. More guards. Dr. Yoon moved into a guest suite to be available 24/7. Jisoo barely slept, constantly checking security feeds and verifying protocols. You're going to drive yourself crazy, Amara told him one night when she found him in his office at 3 a.m, surrounded by security reports. I need to make sure everything is perfect. No vulnerabilities. no weak points. Jisoo, look at me. She waited until he did. You've done everything possible. This compound is more secure than most government buildings. Our son will be born safe. I will be safe. You need to rest. He pulled her into his lap carefully, mindful of her belly. I can't lose you. Either of you. If something went wrong because I missed something, nothing will go wrong. And even if something unexpected happens, we'll handle it together. That's what we do now. We're a team. Labor started 3 days before her due date. Amara woke at dawn with contractions that took her breath away. Jisoo went from asleep to fully alert in seconds, already calling for Dr. Yoon before Amara could speak. The next 12 hours were a blur of pain and determination, and Jisoo never leaving her side. He held her hand through every contraction, whispered encouragement when she wanted to give up, and cried openly when their son finally entered the world screaming his lungs out. He's perfect, Dr. Yoon announced, placing the baby on Amara's chest. 10 fingers, 10 toes, healthy lungs. Congratulations. Amara stared at the tiny, angry, perfect face of her son and felt her entire world realign. This was why she'd survived. This was why that bullet had missed anything vital. This was why Jisoo had found her and protected her and loved her. Everything had led to this moment. Jisoo touched their son's tiny hand with one finger, his expression full of wonder and terror. Hello, Elijah. I'm your father. And I promise I'll spend every day of my life making sure you're safe and loved and free to be whoever you want to be. The baby wrapped his impossibly small fingers around Jisoo's much larger one and held on tight. Something in Jisoo's face crumbled and rebuilt itself all at once. Amara watched the most dangerous man she'd ever known fall completely in love with an 8-pound baby and knew their family would be okay. The first few weeks were exhausting and beautiful. Jisoo proved to be a surprisingly natural father despite his fears. He changed diapers without complaint, walked the floors at 3 in the morning when Elijah wouldn't sleep, and sang Korean lullabies his grandmother had taught him. Amara's mother moved into the compound to help, and watching her interact with her grandson healed something in both of them. 3 years of separation couldn't erase the bond between mother and daughter, and now they had Elijah to strengthen it further. One quiet afternoon when Elijah was 6 weeks old, Amara sat in the rooftop garden where Jisoo had proposed. Her son was asleep in her arms. Jisoo sat beside her, one arm around her shoulders. The sun was setting over Daeshan, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Do you ever think about that night? She asked quietly. The railway? Every day. Me too. I think about how close I came to missing all of this. You, Elijah, this life. Jisoo kissed her temple. A bullet meant for someone else saved your life. It's poetic in a dark way. It didn't save my life. It just stopped me from ending it. You saved my life by giving me a reason to want it back. Before you go, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss powerful stories like this one. Drop a comment below and tell me what you thought of Amara and Jisoo's journey from that railway track to this moment. And if this story moved you, hit that like button. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more stories that make you feel something real. That night, lying in